दोस्तों, we have a very special guest today, Felix Webhofer, Nora Wimmenauer. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes.
Welcome, Felix and Nora. I have a first language as Hindi, and you have a German, so I will be conversing in English language, right? And the mode of conversation is pretty free flow conversation. Allow also me to give some introduction about you, Felix and Nora. So Felix has been doing his bachelor in timber construction and technology, and he has just finished this, and now he's moving to the next phase. Whereas Nora has a very interesting career. She has been into the medicine. She has just completed her observership with Max Hospital in India. So maybe I think the first question, Felix and Nora, with you, maybe I think you can tell us something more about yourself. And also, maybe I can ask that what pursued you in terms of choosing this particular career? You are pursuing architecture and you are pursuing medicine. So then what instinct you to maybe I think pursue this particular courses?
I wasn't sure about the way of my career for a long time. And after school, it wasn't like the clear path that I knew I want to become a doctor. First, actually, I wanted to become a veterinarian, but in school, I did an internship in a veterinary clinic, and I didn't like it. So after school, I was not sure about my future, so I decided to take some time to work in certain fields to first gain some experiences, and after that, decide about what to study. So in the first year, I was doing I was a teaching ski instructor. So I learned how to teach children how to ski.
Wow.
And I gained some money there. And there I already realized that I definitely want to do something with people in my future. And I always had the idea of medicine in my head, but I wasn't too sure about it because I knew it would be a very hard way to do it. So I decided to take another year after school. It's like common in Germany to take time after school to decide what you want to study. So I took another year and I decided to do voluntary work. So I started working at the ambulance in Austria and Innsbruck, where I met Felix. And this was like a little bit like the medical field. And I got a lot of good, the people were saying to me that I was good at it. So I thought, okay, maybe this is like the right thing to do. And I like the work with sick people, with patients. And so I decided to try and get into medical studies in Germany, which was not easy, but after applying 2 years in a row, and the third year, it would work. So I got a place in Munich in Germany and I started studying. And the first 2 years were kind of hard because the first 2 years with all the basic topics is very tough in Germany. So I was a bit struggling, and my parents, who are also doctors, always encouraged me to do what was best for me. So they always told me, Nora, if it's too much for you, you don't have to do it. We know what you're going through. You don't have to do it for us. But when I see them working and I see that it fulfills them to be a doctor, I always thought, okay, this is where I can be in the end. So I tried to get through these tough 2 years. And now after the first big exam, the studying has become a lot easier. So I enjoy studying a lot in Germany now. And I look forward to becoming a doctor in a few years. And now I'm very sure about the way, and I like the future that's ahead of me.
Very nice. The field you have chosen for the study is gynecology.
Right now I'm studying the general medicine. It's every subject.
Yeah.
I get to know all the different specializations now.
Okay.
And after 3 years, I can decide in which direction I want to go. And until then, I just look into the different directions and see what I like and what I don't like. And in the end, I can decide. But now doing the observership in India, I already realized that gynecology could be something. And also emergency medicine that I did in India now was also something that I was very interested in. And it's something that I could see myself in the future, yes.
Very nice. So in terms of the, maybe I think upbringing component that you mentioned, that your parents are doctors.
Yes.
And then certainly they wanted to not you to pursue this course because they understand the hardship about this particular profession. But despite all the, maybe I think suggestions and advices from the parents, you have pursued this. So it is the inclination that you have developed, and then you're pursuing. Very, very wonderful.
Yes.
Felix.
I decided that I want to go in the kind of engineering field when I was 13 years old. This is the time when we decide on which kind of high school we want to go. This is a special kind of education in Austria. It's like unique in Austria. So we have like the general high school, like everyone can go there. After this, you learn a lot, but like nothing specific. And so actually you have to go to university. But we have this second kind of, we call it technical high schools, where we, for example, can go to a business high school, building construction high school, design high school. So you can already specificate what you want to do in the future. And normally high school in Austria is like 4 years. So it means like 4 years primary school, 4 years secondary, and then 4 years high school. But when you want to do one very specific kind of high school, then it's like 5 years. And I did go to the construction high school. At the one side, this is like a very good thing because right now I can get a job whenever I want because I already have this finished kind of school. But at the other hand, it pushes you in one direction. So for me right now, it's like very hard to say, okay, I want to do something else because my whole life, since I'm like 13 years old, I had been in this kind of field, right? So on one hand, it's good. On the other hand, it's like kind of pushing you. Then after high school, I had to do my civil service. So in Austria, we still have to do national service. So I did not want to go to the military because actually I'm against weapons, to be honest, and guns and wars in general. And in Austria, the military is like super useless. We are such a small country. So nothing for me. So I also went to do my civil service as a paramedic at the Red Cross Austria. And that's where I met Nora. And I'm very happy for this. And this is 9 months. And after these 9 months, I started studying architecture for 2 semesters. It was a little bit too artsy, but I could use some ECTS. This is like the credit points you get in architecture studies. And I could transfer them to the other studies. I started then timber construction and technology in Salzburg. I finished my Bachelor of Science there. And right now I'm going for a second Bachelor in Computer Science. And in the end, I want to combine those 2 fields. Yeah.
Very nice. So I think let us more discuss about the education part and maybe I think the career perspective. We can also have that perspective variations in, let's say, Europe versus India as well. Since you have studied there in Europe, Austria, and then you have also seen some specific, maybe I think, work style in India as well. So in terms of the education, I'll give you some, maybe I think, understanding how the architecture education is being perceived in India. In India, when we look at the architecture education, this is something which is not a very, maybe I think, not very sought after education that the students or the maybe professionals look for. So it is something where maybe I think you can see the architecture education versus other engineering education, bachelor's degree. Engineering education is more valued compared to the architecture education. Whereas when we look at in the practice, the architect who drives the maybe building design, construction, project management, or any specific maybe specific area where the architect's role can be, they become the prime mover, and then the rest of the engineering professionals, they basically support or assist or part of their team. So it means that he becomes the prime mover after the education. Before the education, engineering becomes the maybe I think more valued field. So is that something that is there in Austria also, or in, let's say, Europe in general?
So we have this kind of conflict between architects and engineers in Austria as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, the architects is the one, okay, we want this design, and the engineer is like, okay, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And then it's like, this is like the art actually to combine these two knowledge bases and create something, right? So we have this conflict as well. And yes, also the architect is like the construction site manager in some kind of way. He's dealing with all the, actually he's the link between all the consultants.
Absolutely.
It's the same. You can compare it to Austria, yes. But architects in Austria, it's like there are many things you can do as well. For example, some of architects, they work in museums. They are curators for like presentations or art galleries, whatsoever. There are architects that like only design. They don't deal with any kind of form of management or whatsoever.
Construction or maybe site management.
Yeah. Maybe they are like in product design, or maybe they are like only in building design. And then they are consultants for like some kind of construction management firm, right? And so it's not necessary that you get in this kind of field. But still, if you are the link between many consultants, it's like a tough job actually. But architects compared to India, that's what I observed. In Austria, they are like a little bit more valued. So actually, they don't earn they earn good salary. People they look at them like when you go to an architect and say, okay, build something for me, design something for me, then he's going to be the one that tells you how it's done because he's the expert. And here in India, I could see that sometimes it's like the client is telling the architect what to do and how to do it. And for me, this is like confusing because the architect learned it. I mean, he's not expert in every field, but he has like the general view, right? So that's like the main, that's like the main difference. Respect when it comes to architecture and the person that stands behind architecture.
Fair point. I think with respect to the practice, what you have mentioned, sometimes it is correct. We see when the practitioner lacks into the logical interpretation, or maybe I think in terms of architecture, apart from the creative side or the engineering side or the integration of these two things, you have to communicate well to the client. It is equally important. And if you are not able to communicate well, then certainly someone else who is your client can always dictate the terms to you. And that is where we equally, maybe I think, advocate that in the colleges, the communication should also be one of the specific components that needs to be integrated. Because if you are not able to communicate, the creative side that you have may not be able to maybe convey to the other person fully. He or she has a very different mindset, maybe more analytical mindset. He may not understand or grasp the maybe creative side of yours. And that is where maybe I think this is something which is very, very important. But that is very, very important side of the field itself, I would say.
I think like as an architect, you have to sell a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why also in university, when you study architecture, like graphic design is like a huge part of it. And also like you have to, every project you do in architecture, you have to present. And actually you have to sell your project to the teacher or like to the professor. And then in real life, they give you money for it. Maybe they buy it. And in university, they give you a grade for it, right? So they try to implement it actually.
Absolutely. No, in India, we have, I think, valued this side a lot. As a country, we have a lot of architecture heritage available. Taj Mahal or a lot of such beautiful buildings, they are there for ages, 400 years, 500 years, they are there. It means that in terms of the knowledge, whether this is creative side or the technical side, the architects or the creative professionals, they have been doing a wonderful job. A lot of maybe clients or the corporates or maybe the engineers, they appreciate this side very, very well, because most of the cases, creative side is always more valued everywhere, not only in India, but maybe I think across the globe. If you are creative enough, you can always maybe I think have a better way to communicate to others. But in most of the cases, when you have a lot of maybe architecture colleges, uh, apart from maybe I think bringing the creative side among the students, maybe the communication is also equally important, so that you can sell yourself. As you mentioned, that architects have to be better, maybe I think sales professional also.
I mean, when you compare it to engineering, engineering is like based on facts, like objective facts.
Yeah.
So 1 and 0, and architecture is like very subjective and also like emotional.
Yeah.
So this is like different.
No, we totally understand. Let's say I have studied in one of the premium maybe engineering college where the architecture was one of the departments, and then we always were taught with respect to the basic of engineering, and then you have a creative side. So a lot of design classes that were part of the maybe the curriculum. I'll also give you an example. Let's say there are a lot of buildings which are maybe very I would say exclusive in terms of its nature. They are not looking beautiful, but they also are very engineering maybe integrated component. So there's one building in Lucknow. Maybe I think a lot of people don't even know them. Such maybe marvelous buildings. So this is called Bhool Bhulaiya. In English, you can mention it as a maze. So it means that you go to the upper floors of the building, and then you can take any upstairs or downstairs. You may reach to the same place again and again. So that sort of, let's say, the engineering component that was there maybe I think 200 years before. So that is how the maybe I think the art side was being included or integrated in our culture for so long. The course curriculum certainly have been built maybe I think in last 50 to 60 years, but the knowledge or the creative side has been there since ages.
And it's also very interesting in India because you have this mixture. Because I mean, India has like a lot of history with foreign countries, like Portuguese, the Brits, the Dutch. And so what Europeans did, they brought like a lot of architectural input to India, right?
Yeah.
And then this kind of mix of Indian culture and foreign culture, it started to mix him up. So you have like the fort area in Mumbai, for example. Yes, it's British style, but not it. And sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I don't know if I'm in London right now or in Mumbai, but then in the end, it's still the Indian touch as well, you know? So you have this like very unique combination of a lot of knowledge. And I think this is unique in India as well. Yeah. So it's Indian culture in construction and architecture, but also foreign knowledge as well. Yeah.
So Nora, in terms of, let's say, your recent inclination towards the gyne side, maybe I think I have a story for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of, let's say, this particular practice, when in terms of when I say that maybe assisting a lady in terms of giving the birth to the new life is always precious. We always celebrate and enjoy such maybe moments as well in our life. In India, for several decades, we did not have enough healthcare facilities. As of now, we have much more matured healthcare facilities and infrastructure in terms of not only the resources, but also the healthcare hospital or healthcare institutes, they are there. And that is how we also saw that a lot of people from maybe Western countries, they come and get them treated here in India just because it is very affordable at this point of time. Yeah. So when we were not having enough infrastructure, I'm talking about maybe I think 100 years before, or maybe 50 to 100 years before as a range. And then we used to have a culture for the gynec perspective. We used to have midwives. And then in Hindi, we call them dai.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's say midwife, what they used to, how maybe I think they used to learn this science or the knowledge from their own maybe when they giving the birth to the new life, or when they saw or assist their daughter giving the birth, hands-on experience. And then when they maybe I think grew older, they become the maybe traditional midwives, and they are known as a dai in the village. And then they were helping a lot of families within the village in terms of assisting them uh, in the giving birth to the new life. And that is how this culture was there in the earlier generations. And then the moment people you have the better purchasing power, they used to go to the hospital. And the infrastructure also grew very fast, maybe after 1980, 1990s. This culture, this particular homegrown facility just got maybe I think vanished. But this is how India in this particular field grew. And this is how we started from this, maybe I think local language, which was based on just practice. And then grew to this level where we have a lot of hospitals, lakhs of doctors and surgeons uh, uh, in this medicine field, and we are known for our maybe affordable healthcare facilities across the globe. How is it in maybe Germany or in Europe, to be more precise?
So in Europe, we also have, or in Germany, we also have midwives, and it's actually now become a studies.
Oh.
You can study to become a midwife in the end.
Mhm.
So this is also like a big issue, and a lot of people are studying it.
Mhm.
So you also have the midwives in the city where you can do your birth,
Uh-huh.
but you can also go to the hospital. And what I realized, but I think it's a thing of the private hospital, because I was working in Max Hospital in India,
Uh-huh.
and I think it doesn't represent like the hospitals in India,
Uh-huh.
the public ones. But what I realized in the private hospital was that the number of cesarean sections
Mhm.
was so high in the private hospital,
Mhm.
and this is compared to Germany totally different.
Mhm.
And I think there has become, and this is what my senior gynecologist told me, it has become an issue that Indian women decide to about the day of their birth,
Mhm.
because on one day there might be a holy day for the Hindus,
Mhm.
and they decide that they want to give birth on this day.
Mhm.
And this is something that would be unthinkable in
Mhm.
Germany, to
Mhm.
decide about the day of your birth
Mhm.
because of a holy day.
Mhm.
And also the number of cesareans is not that high in Germany as in India. But
Mhm.
I think I can't compare it properly because I haven't been to a public hospital in India.
Mhm.
And I think the number of cesareans in a public hospital in India would be a lot lower than
Yeah.
in the private one.
Mhm.
But in the private hospitals, the patients are like the bosses, and if they tell you I want a cesarean on this and this date,
Uh-huh.
then you have to do it.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, this is what I thought was interesting.
So in the private hospitals, people prefer to have the cesarean because they don't want to pain the maybe to feel the pain.
Yes.
Oh.
They don't want to feel the pain, and they also want to decide about the day of their birth. So
Uh-huh.
this is like the only possibility, because otherwise you have to wait until it's ready, and then it's the day.
For example, the birth of Lord Krishna, the day. This was like a lot of...
There were a lot of planned cesareans for this day, because a lot of women wanted to be the birthday of their children. So
how do you see this, maybe I think kind of decision on the culture in terms of giving the birth on a particular day? Do you value it?
I think everybody has their reasons for that, and religion is like something that I can't I can't understand it because I'm not a Hindu, but I respect it. And if it's the wish of the patient, and if it doesn't hurt the patient and the baby, if it's somehow possible and not too much effort for a doctor, then why not? So it works in India. I saw it in the private hospital. It's okay. If it's not a lot too early or a lot too late, then I think it's okay that a woman can decide about that. But for me, I personally, I can't understand it because my belief, my religion is not as strong as that I would want my child to be birthed on a certain date. Because, for me, it's just a biological thing, and I think it comes when it comes. So this is something that is hard to imagine for me, but I respect it totally if a woman has a different wish.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So let's also have more perspective on the midwives as a profession. We have seen that this profession has vanished from our culture just because maybe I think there were not maybe I think very great mortality rate. And then when you have maybe I think the alternate infrastructure available, then certainly you can always choose to the better one. That is very normal. But maybe how this particular culture, the knowledge which was there, how to make this maybe survive. As you mentioned that you have a specific course in Germany, and then maybe some people can learn, and then they can be more valuable. And the best part is that maybe we have a lot of demography in the rural area as of now. Also, almost like 50% and more people in India. So it means that maybe 700 million people, they still are there in those locations. And then if we can have some maybe I would say revenue generation for those individuals who can learn these things from maybe I think organized setup, they can always earn their livelihoods and they can be more valuable to the people who are already there. They do not need to rush to the maybe nearby suburban town and then get them treated. So is this something that you recommend, because you have already worked there, so I understand that is something.
Yes, I think it could be helpful, of course, yes. I don't have a good comparison to Germany because I have only worked in the gynecology in India, so I don't know about the way in Germany, or I only know about what I've heard. But it certainly would be helpful if there were any midwives in the more remote regions, and if you wouldn't have to go to a hospital, but if you could just call your midwife, tell her, okay, now I have to deliver, and then she comes to your place and you can do it at home. This would also be like helpful for the hospitals, probably, that they don't have so many patients there. So yeah, it's in Germany, it's a choice of the woman. If she wants to deliver at home or in a hospital, she can decide in advance, and then she has she has a personal midwife, and then when she's ready to deliver, then she can call her midwife, and the midwife will come home, and she can deliver at home, or she can go to the hospital.
But there is one big difference actually between Germany and India. In Germany, also when you give birth, like in your own house with a midwife, when there is like an issue, health issue, you will be in the hospital within 10 minutes with the ambulance or with a helicopter or a chopper, whatever. So like there is like healthcare everywhere at any time. And I think in India, when you are like very remote and there's like an emergency and there's like only a midwife without intensive care unit, all the facility, this is like a difference, I guess.
It's a different background.
It's a different background. I mean,
it's true.
But I have to say that also in we had been to Badami. It's a smaller, for me, it's a smaller town in India. Still a lot of people there, but there had been like 3 hospitals in the end. So I think that also in like rural areas, like outside, the infrastructure is growing, I guess. Like when it comes to stationary clinics, right?
Yeah, everywhere you look around and you see a lot of hospitals in India. It's
I don't know how good they are. We only see them from the outside, but
So I think certainly with the maybe I think with more focus from the government on the healthcare side, these hospitals, they're also getting maybe I think retrofitted or maybe integrated with the newer facilities. But certainly I think when you look at the keep up with respect to the demand, certainly we feel that there is a lot more maybe I think path to cover for us as well in terms of making them maybe more maybe infrastructure enabled as well. Coming to Felix, 2 years your side, I think I got to know that you have worked there in Austria, maybe not only, maybe I think, maybe as an architect, designing the buildings, but also you have worked at the construction site, worked maybe and assisted the laborers to construct the houses or the buildings. So it means that you have a maybe 360-degree experience in terms of not only the design on paper, but also getting the building constructed on ground as well. So there are two points, maybe I think, questions or queries. So the one is certainly in terms of the sustainability integration. So when maybe we as a country, we have been very much like focused towards the sustainability component. Uh, when these codes and standards, they were not there, we were by nature very much like conserve maybe energy conservation as a society, or sustainability was part of our society and culture. The second part in terms of the maybe in maybe government support and infrastructure in terms of having such uh, maybe knowledge available, case studies, demonstration available, because architecture is not only about learning in the maybe the design classes or the departments, but also going to the site, getting how the actual construction or actual work is being implemented or done, because that is where you can actually get more fascinated, more passionate, and also much more learning is available on ground. That is where we see the maybe internship or the workshops and these things, they actually play an important role as well. So coming to the 2 points, one, how do you see the sustainability component that is there, maybe with respect to the work culture that you see there in Austria versus India? Second is the government support uh, in making this information availability for the students.
So sustainability with like on site. In Austria, it's like um, all the details and the design is done by the architects, right? By the engineers and so on. Then they give the plans to the companies, they produce it. So, and then it's like all the time, the architect goes on site and it's like checking if it's okay like this or not. And when there's like the tolerances are like super small. So when there's like the vapor barrier, for example, you need it in sustainable buildings in order to get insulation and no like physical moisture problems within the wall. When there's like they do tests, the blower door test, for example. Yeah. They pump in air and see is it like tight or not. If it's not tight, they say it's not good like this. Contract is not fulfilled, we don't pay you. Right? So it's like in the end, and the tolerances, they are set by the European Union. Right? So it is very, very standardized, and because of the standardization, it's very easy also on site to tell if there's like an issue or not. So I think this is like, and also there's a lot of standards in India, I know, but I think or in Europe, the standards, they are tighter. Like, it's like on site, and also on site, you're like not, you have to do it like this. There's like only one way. So it's simply possible to do this way wrong, but it's like harder. Because there's like somewhere in the background, there's like a 50 pages of paper that is telling you how it should be done the correct way, you know? Maybe this is like a difference in India. It's done in Europe, yeah. And the second question was that government support. Okay. Government support, in terms of funding, for sure. So when you fulfill certain standards, you get like funding from this government and paid by taxes in the first place, right? And also in terms of knowledge, for sure, because of the standardization system, right? The European Union, and also like we have these 3 steps: European Union, then the country, and then the states within the country. And European Union is like this law is the most important one, and from this law all the other law starts. So. And the law in Europe means not only they're telling you what should be done, they also tell you how it should be done. So this is how the government supports you in terms of knowledge, I guess. You can say it like that. And for example, studying engineering in Austria, it's like not about innovations or creating new things. Actually, it's like, how do you understand laws? how you understand rules and how do you apply those rules within the construction, right? And all those rules are created by professionalists. We have like these gremiums, most of the like old men sitting together and talking and creating these kind of rules. And then they go through this process of democracy we have in Europe. Bureaucracy is like super high. And this is like how the quality is like managed, you can say, I guess. And like you can also see it in India. A lot of companies, they say like, we are ISO 9001 certified. I mean, you know, ISO, they sit in Switzerland, right? Yeah. I hope I could.
Absolutely. No, yeah, you're pretty much like on the dot. Maybe I think I'll also correlate with the climate change as a component.
Yeah.
So maybe I think recently in the France, where we had this Olympic Games, right? And then there was a heat wave which was occurred there, and then in Olympic Village, it did not have the air conditioning or the fan itself, and a lot of people, maybe I think the athletes, they face a lot of challenge in terms of maybe thermal comfort and also the suffocation. Because in India, maybe I think we understand that maybe our houses or the buildings are not as sealed as we see in Europe. You mentioned the test in terms of checking the sealed component of the maybe envelope. And where there is any leakage, then certainly the blower door test.
It's only one test.
It's only one test. But still, it is important so that we can actually understand that is there any leakage, whether the air changes within the particular premise is much more or more than what has been designed for. So in terms of, let's say, in our premises where we see a lot of ventilations, by default they get designed because we have this culture in terms of not using the air conditioning system earlier, maybe 20 or 30 years before. And now with a lot of buildings are having the air conditioning systems there. But despite having all these systems, still most of the houses, they are with a lot of openable windows. Whereas in case of those villages that you have also seen and you must have heard, that it was not livable in terms of this particular occurrence. Certainly, this is something which is which is not the business as usual scenario for the Paris as a climate, but certainly such occurrences in terms of heat waves, more maybe I think flood, temperature ranges. And these things, the occurrence is much more in the Western countries also nowadays.
I cannot talk about Paris, you know, I don't live there, but I can say for Austria, we are not used to cooling. And this is like a new phenomenon. Like the summers are super hot now. It's like also 30 degrees and up. So this is becoming a challenge for us as well, yes. But we are very used to heating. So with a heating system, there comes the insulation. And insulation in Austria is like actually very good. So we have like U values of like 0.22 for walls. This is actually quite good. So, and this also helps you during cooling periods, right? Because during night, this is maybe the difference to Delhi. In Delhi, it's like also the night is quite hot. And back home, it's cooling down during the night. So like during the night, you open the windows, you get cold air inside, you're cooling down the house. And then during the day, the house kind of stays cool. But now with climate change, it's getting hotter and hotter. So let's see how the journey goes, because air conditioning, it's becoming a topic. But right now we are not used to it. But I think the infrastructure that is there now with insulation and also heating systems, because when you reverse heating systems, it will be a cooling system, right? So for example, the heating systems, we lose a lot of them in the floors. And with the pipes, and when you pump warm water inside,
radiant heating.
But when you pump in cool water, then it's cooling, right? So I think this infrastructure helps us in order to implement to the climate change symptoms. But let's stop the climate change and we have to adapt at one hand, but on the other hand, we have to fight against it. Yeah. Very important.
So I think every society has to do their bit in terms of mitigating such issues. Also have some conversation on the culture, society culture per se. For Nora, maybe I think we can talk about the mental health or the work life balances. And Felix, in your case, maybe I think in terms of maybe the infrastructure that needs to be built in Austria is way less compared to the infrastructure requirement in India, because maybe our society is growing very fast in terms of the population. In terms of the purchasing power is also is getting very great. So it means that we need more houses, we need more buildings, and then compared to your society where maybe maximum infrastructure is already built, you don't need much of the maybe houses, and the growth of the population is also very less compared to the South Asia as a region. So it means that the work culture drives the maybe architecture services or the building design and construction requirements also. How the culture or the specific, maybe I think the way the countries are in terms of the economic power, how the culture drives the maybe building design and construction practices. Can you just show some light on it?
Okay. So back home, we also, yes, our population is not growing that fast anymore, but still right now we see that a lot of people move from the countryside to cities. So there is a huge demand for new buildings within cities. But what's the problem in cities? They are crowded. So not enough space for new buildings. So we have to like make old buildings higher, put storages on it. So it's not, the infrastructure is there, yes, but it's like not perfect yet. So we still have to like improve it, right? And also houses get old, so we have to maintain them, right? And in India, what I have seen, this is like for India actually I cannot say because like
so India I can give you the perspective. Yeah. So in India, maybe I think the rate of getting the building or the per square feet done is very high. In the recent, maybe I think the last tenure of the Indian government, they declared one initiative in terms of housing for all. So it means that, and they also declared that almost like 11 million households to be built in the 5 years of the time. You can imagine when we say 11 million household to be built, it is a huge opportunity also, but there's a lot of maybe I think infrastructure requirements or the monetary requirement or the maybe I think initiatives. When I say infrastructure, I'm talking about the knowledge infrastructure also. So maybe I think the architects or the engineers, they also have to be mentally prepared to provide these services to build such mega requirement of the resource, maybe infrastructure. So in terms of the maybe aggressiveness in terms of getting the houses built or the amenities built is way high compared to maybe European countries.
Definitely.
Like 100%. Yeah. I mean, we are comparing a state of 1.4 billion people to a country in Europe with 9 million people. Yeah. So this is like these two different worlds, right? Yeah. And I see like Nora, for example, is like a new city, right? And in my opinion, it's like kind of well organized with these huge gated communities, a lot of people living inside. And and what is India is like very good at housing a lot of people in like small areas. Like square meter per person is like way smaller compared to Europe, because we have like the feeling that we need our own house. We need a lot of space for us and our family. And in my eyes, this is, for example, not sustainable. I mean, for me, like flats with a lot of multi-storages, that's kind of sustainable because the ground ceiling is like way smaller, and covering the ground is way smaller compared to what we are doing back home, because we are like putting concrete everywhere. So this has to change for sure. But yeah, for me, it's like I had a small insight in India, yes, but I I don't have the big picture yet. Yeah.
And it would be hard to like change the mindset of people, or it will be a long way to change the mindset of people in Europe to tell them that they will need a lot less space for living than they do now. It's like what you read in your book, Felix, you know, with the people, like so many people in one place in India, it's working and they are like friendly with each other and it's working out because India is a very friendly country and lives in communities, and it's.
But when you put 1.4 billion Austrians in the same space, they will kill each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is like just an insight in the mentality, and this is something that we can learn from Indians for sure, because the individualism in Europe and in Germany and Austria is so much higher, and I think we have to let that go a little bit in order to get more sustainable. And it's hard to tell people that, because how do you tell an individual to let go of the individuality? So,
and also when it comes to privacy, I mean, back home everyone is shutting the door, right? And then you have your huge garden, your house with your family. But in India, when you are rich and privileged, then you have your apartment, right? But when you are poorer, then privacy is like not common. I mean, in Delhi, there's like no privacy. It's like there's like people anywhere. And in the most rural area within the forest, you will always see an Indian guy. And back home, this is like a huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah. And they get along with each other. That's also to say.
So, Nora, you mentioned the individuality. I think this is something which is again, maybe I think the society culture as well. So when the society has, maybe I think has enough wealth to meet their, maybe I think the basic needs, and then you they basically look at the secondary or tertiary levels of requirements for the human being, and that is where maybe I think you have maybe your own private space, because you're not worrying about maybe I think other people. You yourself are sufficient enough. You know, in our culture, community driven initiatives are more required because one person has not enough means, so they have to stick together. And the moment they have enough means, they just want to be separated out.
But this may be that's also not the correct. Like we are not very we have our privacy, yes, but we also contribute to community. I mean, for example, in Austria, the whole firefighter service is all volunteers. I mean, so there is it's like not that you do your work, go home and don't see anyone. The volunteering work in Austria, for example, is like super high. And without volunteers in Austria, also the 80% of the Red Cross, the ambulance service, is volunteering. Like no salary paid at all. Without this, our country would not function as well. So we also have it.
So this has been there since ages, the earlier times also, or this is part of the school culture, education now? No, because this is a cycle that we understand. You have to reach to this level. Once you have reached to this level, you see a lot of issues. If you are the individual and you have your own, maybe I think comfort space, you will not run for such causes. You will run for such cause when you feel that maybe I think you can also be in the trouble.
A lot of people do it because it's a job of honor. You know, you don't get money, but you get like honor. People say, good job you do.
Very nice.
Yeah. So this is the payment you receive, right? This is why people do it. Also for me, after my civil service, I was volunteering for half a year. And it's like people say thank you.
Wow.
And this is the kind of payment you receive. Yeah. But for sure, you cannot feed the family with a thank you.
More than the payment, it is about the respect that you have run for.
In volunteering,
Voluntary,
in corporate work, it's about the money.
But
it's like something that you can do when you know, okay, I have enough wage to care for my family. I don't have any money issues. So what's my purpose now? And then you start thinking, okay, my purpose is not to earn enough money to keep up for my family. So now I'm looking for another purpose. And then the other purpose is to get respect or to get worship for what you do. So I think this is something that's also,
good
an issue that you can only, it's a privilege to have this, the time to do voluntary work because you have enough money to feed your family.
But right now we are talking about the middle class. We
Yes.
don't talk about the super rich and we don't talk about the poor because they super rich, they don't care, and the poor, they cannot care.
Mhm.
It's everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah. We in general, we talk about maybe I think the middle class.
Mm.
In our society, we have a two class. One is middle class, one is the maybe lower middle class also.
Mhm.
Because the shift is from lower middle class to the middle class,
Mhm.
and from middle class to the upper middle class, and then you have a rich class. So a lot of maybe I think the levels that we have in our society as well. In a lot of maybe I think other countries, for example, maybe I think countries like maybe in our neighborhood as well, you have only let's say poor class and the rich class. But in our society, you have a substantial number of people who are coming under the middle band also
Mm.
in terms of the
Back home, we also have poor people, but the life standard of the poor people in our country is way higher than the life standard of poor people in India.
Mm.
Yeah, because actually in Austria, no one has to live on the street.
Yeah.
You will, the people live on the street because they have whatever.
support from the government.
Yeah, no. They want to. Some people want to live on the street, but if you, government will always give you a home. Always. Yeah.
So here people live on the street just because there is no support also from the government side most of the cases. Although we have certain maybe I think shelters, but these shelters are not maybe I think livable enough.
Mm.
And also maybe I think the density is so huge that people can't live there also. That is also one of the
As we said, we compare 1.4 billion to 9 million.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nora, I think let us also have some conversation on the mental health and work-life balance,
Mhm.
because these two things are very much like related to every set of society,
Mhm.
or even the architects fraternity as well,
Mhm.
because we generally understand that the architects have to work more because of the maybe I think the time constraint. We also have to see that the site that runs from 9 to maybe I think 9 at least 12 hours. Lot of such constraints. So I think mental health and the work-life balance. What are your views?
Mhm.
Maybe I think you can put your Germany perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
So mental health is having a lot of attention in Germany,
Okay.
and I think we are on a good way to achieving it. And the mentality about it is very like we worship free days off,
Mhm.
and everybody lives kind of for the weekends. And our weekends go from Friday to Sunday, so we have 2 days of the week. And we also have we also control the working hours. So we have a minimum wage that people get for their working day,
Mhm.
and there are also rules that people cannot work more than 12 hours a day
Mm.
without getting that kind of break during this working period.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of rules in order to secure the mental health and the work-life balance for people, and we worship the work-life balance for people. So it's very important that for people to tell about their holidays that they are doing or what they did on the weekends, because this is what we live for, and it's not the work, but it's like the time that we have after work. It's like in the younger generation, especially under the students, it's in my surrounding, a lot of people are talking about not wanting a full-time job in their future, but only searching for a half-time job, because and some are like want to work a lot, but others are like they have a lot of they want the work-life balance more than the.
Who are these two set of people?
I think it's all about the background, about the academic background in the families. If they can afford this lifestyle, definitely. It's not something that everybody can decide about. If the money in the family is not there, then they don't have the freedom to decide about how much they want to work, because this is the same in India. They have to earn enough money to keep their lifestyle. But others maybe where there is already money in the families, they have they can make the decision that they only want to work half time because the money will still be enough to have a good lifestyle. And yeah, this is a privilege.
So having enough money is the driving factor.
No, you just said that it's that people in Germany work for their weekends. I think this is maybe for some of them, yes.
Yeah, definitely. I know my father, for example, he's not enjoying.
Healthcare is different. So people who are in healthcare, they have a different mindset because they are more dedicated towards their maybe I think the work, because their work is towards the humankind, towards the mankind, in terms of taking care of them. Taking care of people cannot be defined by 6 days or 5 days working. Who will take care of them in rest of the 2 days? No? So I think that is how let's say the doctors or healthcare professionals, they are supposed to be trained to be available throughout the time. So Felix, what is your perspective?
My perspective is
the work-life balance is super important in order to get efficient in your job. So it's like not working and then waiting for the weekend. This is, in my opinion, this is like the wrong way. And in like private business, this is even also not possible because then your company will simply vanish. And we have a very strong focus on efficiency in our daily work. And the work-life balance keeps this efficiency alive. Without having like your 16 hours of rest per day, you cannot work efficiently. It's as simple as this. And holiday, it refreshes your mind. And you can be creative again. You can be efficient again. You can think clearly again. So I think this is, for me, at least in the field where I was working, this is like the goal. But yes, Nora is also right in some point. We have this movement as well that when you are from a rich family, you don't have to work. Yeah, it's like this. And I hate it. And for me, for myself, I'm not from a rich family. Like, we have a very good life standard. Like, I have everything I need. But I'm like, I have to work. Otherwise, I cannot afford my studies. Otherwise, I cannot afford traveling to India. I cannot afford. I have to work. And I love to work, actually, as well. And so when you are privileged, you can say this. But when you're not, then you, and most of the people in Austria, they are not. And also in Germany, they have to work. And they also, some of them hate to work, yes, but a lot of them love to work as well. When you find the job you
but
like.
what I meant was, like, when people are in their free time of work, then the topics are most of the time not about work. It's about the things that you experience after work and about the holidays. This is like the things that are important to us. And this is very different in India. When we were traveling here or when we were talking to Indians, we knew that the talks that we had were, we could start conversations about work, and this would be a topic that we could talk about a lot.
This is true.
And this is totally different in Germany, because when you meet your friends, when you meet with your parents, the topics will the topics will be the weekends and the weekend activities.
You don't talk about work in the privacy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And we have a strong we separate work and private things very good from each other. Or some people better, some people were not that good, but this is like the goal, to have it separated, because then you can enjoy your free time with your head free, no work in your head. Then you will be relaxed, and you can go on Monday, you can go to work, and your head will be free. And
also this kind of system is based on studies. No, this is like observations done by scientists, right? So it's like not we do this because we like it. I mean, yeah. So this is like scientific as well, this kind of system. Yeah.
And what we experienced in India was that also I think the private life doesn't come to work. So people at work don't talk about their private lives. But I think that the work is getting carried home sometimes a little bit. Or what we see is that the work is a lot more on the weekends, for example. Like, there's sometimes no day off the week. And then how can you separate things when you're working all the time? So I think this is a big difference.
And it would be interesting to compare, because like work hours per week in India are for sure higher, like probably maybe twice the time. I don't know. We are like working 40 hours per week, like normal schedule. And in India it's like 60, I guess, sometimes. So it would be like interesting to compare which output in the end is higher. So I don't know, but maybe if I would studying like this kind of field, it would be nice to do a study on this.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I'll give you one perspective here. So in India, and if you look at the comparative component, let's say in India, UAE, or maybe other South Asia countries, India stands for maybe average working hours. So we have a 46 working hours defined, whereas in case of UAE, it's almost like above 50 working hours. Recently, one of our very renowned founder of the software company Infosys, you might have heard his name as well, Mr. Narayan Murthy, he also advocated for 70 hours working per week. And then he draw a lot of flack from a lot of maybe I think civil societies or a lot of even the corporates also for not pursuing such culture as well. We understand it is not that the society is so aggressive, because we understand how maybe I think other countries in our region, even let's say in China, works much maybe I think more and more maybe I think specific working hours in terms of making sure that the growth of the country in terms of GDP is higher. Uh, in our country, certainly we are the aspiring country. We are in the developing country stage, and we have better and more aspirations as well in terms of having more maybe economic strength. So maybe I think there is always a way of maybe projecting the working hours. And I totally buy your point, Felix, here that you need to have the better work environment and better maybe I think working hours as a policy, so that maybe I think the maybe you can have a maybe a good interest among the people in terms of creating the good quality work, right? Because the quality is one thing which is very very important aspect. It's not that you are just doing the job, you are working for maybe I think a lot of domestic and international clients, and then quality is one thing which can take the organization or the individual to the next level. So this is something which is very very important aspect. But one perspective is important here. Maybe I think that is where this as a concept in terms of the working hours or the work-life balance have grown and has gotten a lot of attention from the people, not only in India but everywhere. I still remember, and if you look back the history, you have a maybe industrial age also in the Europe, where almost like maybe I think a lot more decades you have almost like 12 to 16 working hours daily throughout the week. It means that the Europe has done its bit in terms of making the infrastructure available, making their people prosperous, and then once the wealth is accumulated, you have enough resources, infrastructure available, then you give the knowledge or the advices to the other countries or to the other maybe societies in the world that this is a work-life balance and people should follow. So this is something
we don't say people should follow.
No, that's all right.
They can.
No, this is just the maybe I think understanding and the perception.
And what we also have to say, European countries, they weren't fair in the back. I mean, a lot of rich wealth we have in Europe is based on India, for example. Like colonialization, it's like a very dark point in our history, and I have to be honest about it. And it is not fair. And I think, in my opinion, we should give back a lot, and we are not doing, and that's unfair.
No, absolutely taken your point. We are not following what is being advocated or advised by so many other maybe countries and people, because we also have our own culture in terms of maybe I think taking care of our people and our demography as well.
A 9 million country cannot give advice to a 8 billion country, and we shouldn't, because you can't adapt the things that we thought we realized were best for us in Europe, we can't compare them to India, because what works for us will probably not work here. So we have to help. Maybe what we can do is helping find out what is best for you, but we cannot say you have to do it like us, because this will probably not work.
Absolutely.
And at the other hand, we come to India, observe and bring back knowledge from India to Europe, right?
Yes.
So it's like exchanging. It's exchanging, but not only in one direction, always both directions.
Yeah, it's always mutual. The knowledge is always, I think, mutual. But in this case, let's say one aspect that is also maybe I think the individual consciousness, because even if the work-life balance in terms of the leaves or off days, on days, they are being defined by the corporates or the smaller organizations, the individual has to be conscious enough in terms of taking care of their health. So how you perceive Nora in terms of maybe I think the health consciousness among the demography?
I think it's different. People are different there. So there are people that are, I think, rather belong to the older generations who kind of are against going to the hospitals, and they are like, I don't need anything. I'm fine with nothing. I feel sick. Okay, I stay at home, and after that, I will not be sick anymore. And then we have a lot of checkups that are new in our health system for people to go to the doctor even before they are sick, in order to prevent some diseases to occur at all. So this is very helpful, and I think the young generation starts to understand the importance of that. So I think there's also a shift, but I think it's very similar in India, at least what I saw in the Max hospital.
Very nice.
I think there's not a lot of differences between private hospital in India and the hospitals in Germany. But as I said, I don't know about the situation in the public hospitals, and there it will probably different. So but I don't know, how is it in India with the people?
When we have the time off, we are used to do sports, right? I mean, it's for ourselves, we like it, but in the end, it's also good for our people to stay healthy.
Yeah, healthy lifestyle is an important topic. And we care a lot about healthy food, doing sports, but it's the same. It's what the doctor that I was working with in the gynecology is also what she recommended to the patients who there are like diseases coming up like PCOS. It's an issue that comes with people eating too much unhealthy food and doing too less sports. So, and it's the advice of the doctors in India as well, to eat healthy, to do a lot of sports, to keep moving. So in order to stay healthy. And I think this is the same recommendation, only that maybe we are a little bit more ahead of that in Germany, that the shift in the minds has already started a little bit earlier than in India, but I think it's coming now.
Because my grandparents, they didn't do sport at all.
Yeah. But it started with our parents, probably.
Yeah.
So in India, I think you asked me about the Indian perspective. I think it's a transition. So we were very focused on earning a good livelihood. Maybe I think from 80s to 2000, we see people have a different mindset. From 2000 onward, we have a very different mindset because we see a lot of maybe economic growth. And then we see maybe I think people look at these aspects more closely and carefully, that maybe I think health related aspects should be taken care of. And then maybe people understand that these aspects in terms of making the time available for the family, or the maybe extracurricular development, maybe your self availability for the sports, all these things are certainly part and parcel of the daily life for the younger generation. We call it as Gen Zs. So Gen Zs are very, very conscious about maybe I think such things as well. So I think this is something which maybe I think the generation before from where maybe I think I belong to,
Mhm.
I appreciate when I see such maybe I think demands and the requirements from maybe my kids as well.
Mm.
So I think we understand that this
Mhm.
is something which is important,
Mhm.
and we should not just ignore such thing, because maybe I think we understand that maybe I think making a decent livelihood availability for the household is our responsibility, because it wasn't there earlier.
Mm.
Now with the younger generation, this is there.
Mhm.
They need to look at maybe I think the other aspects in terms of maybe grooming and developing themselves.
Mhm.
So we have a rapid fire round also for Felix and Nora. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you tired?
No, it's fine.
Yeah. What's that?
Rapid fire. What do you mean, friends?
So we have some questions.
Okay.
You can just maybe I think give in maybe 1 or 2 words. Rapid fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe I think you can name one country you would love to visit.
Yes. Also.
Nice. So early riser or maybe night owl.
Ah.
Early riser.
Early riser as well.
Okay. And what is one thing that you always travel with?
Headlamp.
Headlamp.
And my climbing gear.
And what is your go-to productivity hack?
Sports.
Wow. Okay. Felix,
Coffee, I guess.
coffee?
Yeah.
Make some coffee available for Felix. One word to describe your time in India.
Welcoming.
Welcoming.
Culture shock, but in a positive way.
Very nice. Great. So I think in terms of what I got to know, we understand that you have traveled for almost like a month in the western and the southern part of the country. Maybe I think you'd like to share your experiences.
So we experienced that the parts of India that we saw were so different. It could have been different countries.
Uh-huh.
And this was so interesting to us because the countries that we belong to are so much smaller, and you will never find such different landscapes, such different people,
Mhm.
such different cultures. And we enjoyed seeing that very much. And it was so nice to have all these insights in the different shapes of India. And it's such a diverse country, and it's very nice to see that. And also, like something that hasn't changed overall of India was always the hospitality and the people welcoming us as foreigners so much. And this was making our trip so lovely because wherever we were, all the people were so interested in us all the time. They keep asking us questions about ourselves, about our country, about how we like India, about India, if India is treating us well. And we always could answer that question with yes, because people are making it that way for us.
Very nice.
And not only the people change, the landscape is changing, the food is changing, the weather is changing. Like it's a little bit maybe when all European country would be like one country, then it's like Italy is totally different from Austria, for example, and here's like Kochi is like super different from Delhi. Like not only in size but also everything actually.
What are the locations you have traveled?
We've seen Mumbai, Pune, Hampi, Goa, and Kochi.
And then we had been to Jaipur as well.
Yes, and Rishikesh.
And Amritsar.
Rishikesh.
Yeah.
Amritsar.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of locations you have traveled.
Yeah.
But not the Himalaya yet.
Yes, that's
not the Himalaya.
Yeah, but we will come back in a few years and then we go to the Himalaya.
Absolutely.
And also the West Bengals. We were
like and the east of India.
Yeah, that's
So any specific, maybe I think best and the worst experiences?
Yeah, the best was always the people. The people everywhere, but also the kindness of the people everywhere. So we came here being a little bit afraid, and there are stories being told in Germany, and what made us afraid in the beginning. So we arrived here being frightened by India a little bit because we have a prejudice about what's happening here. But it was so nice to see that none of this fulfilled, and we never experienced any bad things, except maybe people offering us things too much.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was always like very, the people were just very, very nice to us. And we didn't expect that. So this was a very beautiful surprise for us. And
Great.
And for me, it's like always getting in touch with the locals, because you sit with them, you play soccer, you drink a beer, you drink a chai, whatever, smoke a cigarette together, and then they tell you about their life. And then it's like, wow, I understand. Okay, this is how you do it. Very super interesting. And then I'm telling about my life. And then you find these small things that are like similar. You know, it's like we are so different, but it's similar, and you get these kind of connections. And this is like super easy in India, because people are open-minded. And this is the thing I love, actually, and the nature. But this is like obvious.
And maybe the worst is that it's hard for us that you don't have tap water, because we're used to taking our glass to the tap and drinking the water there. So this is where we had to be very careful not to get any diseases from that, because we stayed very careful. And this is maybe the worst thing that we experience now, that it's hard to get the clean water from the taps. But I think this is something that could change in the future. I think you're on it already to.
And my worst things, maybe it's a little bit too big of a topic to open in the podcast, but for me it's the caste system, women rights, domestic violence, and for me this is like a red flag. And we heard some stories, and I'm still emotionally like shocked by it. And I hope that, like, it's not on me to judge. I respect the culture, but for me personally, I hate it.
No, I agree. I think in general, the demography or the people or as a culture, I think we surely don't advocate such thing. But it is a diversity which brings maybe I think such not so good, or maybe I think the bad things as a part of our culture. You can identify that these things are wrong. So that is how maybe I think sometimes these are the things which maybe I think which come maybe I think as a non so maybe integrated component of the culture, but they just get involved just because maybe I think the evils, they get spread fast.
As I said, I don't judge on it. I respect it, but for me personally,
No, that's all
it's
right.
hard to understand.
We also see these things, and we tend to maybe I think work against such events as well. So I think that is our responsibility as well.
In the Indian constitution, everyone is the same. Like, but in the culture, it's like still not.
But I also in the gynecology, they are not supposed to reveal the gender of the babies in India. This is something in the first place I could not believe it, because in Germany it's so normal to reveal the gender and to be happy with either gender. And in India it's such a big topic, and I think this is the first step to not tell the gender, but at some point I hope that a rule will not be necessary anymore, because also in India maybe people will not care about the gender of the baby, because it's happy. They will be happy either way, if it's a boy or a girl. And I think you're on the way, but it will take some time to get it in the heads of the people.
Absolutely. And we understand these things are not appreciable by and large, all the maybe I think completeness from the society. But since they got maybe I think into the picture just because of the maybe I think economic issues, and then so society has decided and make them in the form of a law, so that at least some safeguard can happen. But these things certainly be maybe I think eroded in due course of time.
And we still have the struggles back home. I mean, we still have a gender pay gap. We still have violence against women. We still have it. And I also hate it back home. And I hate it back home, and I hate it in India as well. So
I think this is something which we all have the equal responsibility to work against such issues and make a cause, so that such maybe I think equal or maybe I think equitable opportunity should be created for both the genders. So I think that is something which is very much important, please.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is that it starts with the education, and that you start telling kids that they are equal. Because this is something, when you tell a little girl that women are not that good car drivers as men, even if they like start driving the same time, if it's in their head already, then this will probably not change, and in the end the outcome will be that the woman doesn't drive as good as the man. But if you start at the little kids and tell them that no matter the gender, they are equal, and driving is something that everybody learns in their way, and it has nothing to do with the gender, for example, then this is where the change starts, I guess. And this is very important also, but also in Germany, I think we also have the problem, and we also have a lot to learn in this field, and also in the education to start more to.
But from generation to generation.
Exactly.
Well, I'm sure. I think it's a great insight, and maybe one last point that I would like to have from your side in terms of maybe how important you see such maybe international exchange initiatives. Let's say you have come with an intent to understand the Indian culture. Certainly, there was a professional requirement as well, but maybe I think one thing that I liked personally, that you have ensured that you should travel across India, and then you can learn the diversity that we have in terms of the culture, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the people. And that is very much important. And that is what I think we also advocate, everyone here in India to travel, to have maybe I think great exposure. But maybe I think such international exchange initiatives or programs that you yourself part of, how they can maybe foster the cross-culture initiatives, how important it is for maybe I think the countries like yours and ours. What is your perspective?
I mean, we live in a globalized world, and in order to work and live with each other, we should understand each other. So it's not about the knowledge in technical terms you get in India. Absolutely. It's like, it's the cultural and the social capital you gain here. It's like, I'm convinced by it, otherwise I wouldn't be here, right? So
and it encourages us to feel empathy to all people, and to start collaborations with India maybe. And I think this is very important.
But it's also unfair, because for us it's not very easy, but it's, at least we have the capital to come to India. But what we heard in India is like, a lot of people want to, I also want to go to Europe for 2 months to travel or to work or study there. But most of the time it's a dream, and it won't happen. So it's unfair. And also a little bit, this is the fault of European Union, I guess, because the visa process for foreigners is super tough. It's tough. At least when you don't have the money.
So maybe I think in due course of years, I think such relations, they can get maybe I think a lot of strength, because maybe I think it is more or less the intergovernmental relation which also drives such smooth activities as well. So I'm hopeful that a lot of people can travel without much hassle, and maybe I think when people travel and talk to the communities, and people like you can exchange the ideas and maybe share your knowledge and experiences, I think it helps us. Maybe indirect feedback, it helps you also in terms of the direct or indirect feedback. Again, makes the two set of societies closer to each other, and it not only helps the knowledge, as you mentioned, but also the fostering of the culture. It is something which drives the overall human aim to live together happily.
Because you cannot always trust the world on social media. You have to see it with your own eyes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Felix. I think with your last words, I'll summarize, and I'll pause this podcast. Thank you so much for being the guest super knowledgeable and maybe I think a very great guest for this podcast. Thank you both, Nora and Felix. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaskar.
Thank you for having us.